You know, it's just wonderful to be here in front of a camera again. Reminds me of Bangkok very much because I spent so much time there in front of a camera and I had a wonderful time, especially because Noi, who's the director, was a joy to work with, and I had a great time with Benz, who is the person who actually brought me there initially because it was his video that changed everything in my life ever since, actually. And that was something that I had never expected, never could have anticipated. And then there was Vichai, who made sure that he took me around Bangkok whenever I needed to go out to a restaurant or shopping or anything. Vichai was there for me, and in fact, you know, now that I think about it, I've been kind of looking back at this book, My Adventures in Bangkok. In fact, I should mention it, that, and I never have, I didn't tell anybody in Bangkok and I haven't told anybody here. The truth of the matter is that that cover wasn't designed by the book company. I did a collage, as it's called, in which I pasted up the adventures in Bangkok, put my adventures in Bangkok in little papers, and then I glued them into a picture of this place, which has changed a little since then. And then I had a portrait of me, and so it was about the right size, so I cut it out and I pasted it into this so that now my adventures in Bangkok kind of float up here. I have my picture here, and somebody suggested that the story of John would probably go well there, and I put that in. So this was my artwork in a sense. I'm who's who of American art here in America because of all the collages that I did, and so I couldn't resist it for doing a cover on my book. So anyway, it was a wonderful trip there, and I thought that maybe today I would share a little bit of what I wrote, because when I was there, I began to realize that if I came back and I never wrote anything for anybody and I never allowed anybody to find out what it was, nobody would ever know what it was like there for me. And the wonderful time I had, an adventure unlike anything I've ever had in my life before. So I decided while I was there, I began writing. And so the book started when I was actually there, when I was off camera, back in my room. I would spend some time writing. And the book was begun there, and I finished it here in the States. So one of my stories in here, this is chapter 34 that I'm very fond of. I was just looking at it again. I thought maybe you would enjoy hearing some of it, and certainly my telling about it. So the title is Hard to Choose, which is the title of the book here. And there's a little picture down here of the action that was going on in it, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. So it starts as, I recall Vichai plans on taking me to shop for a backpack requested by Lillian. Now, Lillian's my wife, and she had been there, well, she lasted about 4 days, and then she wanted to get back and do her jewelry designing here in New York, so she left soon after that. But anyway, then the way to get to the department store from where the studio is in Bangkok. Now, I don't know whether you even know, if you look at the book, you would not realize that this studio right here that I'm sitting in was photographed and then copied absolutely to the point where I couldn't tell the difference when I went to Bangkok, and they took me in to show me this place where I had been living here in New York, And this was perfect. The floor was the same. Everything that was here at that time was in place in the studio in Bangkok. So I felt right at home when I was there. At the same time, I had feeling pretty right at home there in the place where I was too. So anyway, we had to go to the department store at that time, and so Vijay took me downstairs, and he walked up to the street outside, and he held up his finger, and a motorcycle drove up, and a person in an orange jacket was on the motorcycle, and this was a motorcycle taxi, which I had no idea there was such a thing. And he had me get on, and it was very difficult because I had to climb over that back fender, everything, and get on. I just got on, and the guy's gunning the engine. He's all set to go, and I don't have my hands any place there. Vijay's yelling to put my feet on the runners there on the side of the motorcycle, and I get that on, and just then it starts. He says, "Grab the back," and I grab down, and this motorcycle takes off. And I don't know how fast we were going because it zipped out into traffic. And by that time, he'd gotten his own motorcycle. Somehow it had come up, and he was following me at that point. We zipped through traffic, and it was maybe 5 minutes between where we were down through traffic. We went through a place where no automobiles were going, went over a thing. I thought we were, well, it was an exciting ride, to put it mildly. Anyway, I'll start a little bit with a little more on it. So now I notice here, I hear Vijay shout, "Feet rest, foot rest," and my feet find the footrest and fumble for the handholds, and we're already in high gear, and I find my hands are down behind me. It feels like 0 to 80 miles an hour in 1 second. And it really did. It was breathtaking. As we zoom around people between cars, careening at the edge of the road back to the center, and at the back edge, turn a corner, nearly lying down on our side. I'm sure I'll land in the street careening around every corner, and then speed bumps, and we're airborne. I close my eyes. I'm sure we sailed over the top of at least one car, another wicked curve, and everything stops. I open my eyes. We're there. I stagger off the two-wheel monster as if I had just finished a bottle of sake, and as I continue staggering around my efforts to avoid falling down, I stammer for Vijay's benefit, "Oh, wow, that was fun." I see Vijay is casually climbing off his motorcycle with the grace of a modern dancer, and Vijay is so polite, he just nods. And how did he manage to get there first anyway? I decided he must have been airborne over me on a speed bump while my eyes were closed. Of course, since he's psychic also, so he can probably bilocate or something like that. Anyway, in my case, I consider myself lucky to have gotten there at all. As my normal vision returns, sort of, I find we're in the subway station again, where the two subways meet. When I manage to catch my breath and begin to walk, I decide it actually has been very exciting and fun. Well, enough fun, so I did manage to go back to the hotel on another motorcycle taxi after our shopping trip. I did it without falling off midway and even throwing up or passing out or anything. I knew I could get used to it eventually. And here's the little drawing I made to show what it was like on that motorcycle for me. I think this was just about when I was airborne, something like that. Anyway, I hope that this was at least a clue as to what might be in the book, because I wrote down all kinds of things that I thought were unusual. Well, I thought they were unusual. They were extremely unusual in my life. And I'd run a whole list of them, but I know we don't have time to do that in terms of this video. So I highly recommend, though, that you get a copy of this thing. both because you can hang this up for my artwork, of course, and you could also check on the back because there's a pretty interesting thing written on the back of it, and of course the story. You get some idea of what's been happening. A pleasure. Thank you.